Welcome to the Sprinklr Coffee Club. I'm 𝗆𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒌𝒔, your host here at the Sprinklr Coffee Club, and thanks so much for joining us today. Here at the Sprinklr Coffee Club, we like to talk about digital transformation. We talk about customer experience, but we also talk a lot about social media, the best practices, the exciting new opportunities, and what a guest we have today to talk about social media. A veteran, an innovator, a man with an incredible breadth and depth of knowledge about these emerging technologies and cultural phenomena. I'm really excited to introduce today Greg Galant, the CEO and founder of 𝒆𝒂𝒃 and the 𝗺cie Awards. Greg, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Marshall. I'm honored.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to get to see your face again. It's been, I guess it was about this time last year, we were hanging out at South by Southwest.
Yeah, that's right, in Austin. We would have been again had it not been for this craziness. But on the other hand, here we are, and now it doesn't really matter if you were 1 block away from me or a few thousand miles away. We're interacting just the same way.
I think there's a lot of truth to that. I will confess I miss getting to hang out with you in person, but I appreciate this a lot too. So we'll do it like this. Greg, can you tell us for the handful of folks in our audience who might not be familiar with these two incredible projects that you have built, these companies you've built over the years, 𝒆𝒃 and the 𝗺cie Awards, how do you explain what they are?
Sure. So 𝒆𝒃 is a platform both for PR professionals it's a software platform to do everything they need to do, find the right journalist to pitch on a story idea, reach out to the journalist, track the relationship with the journalist, monitor their brand in the news, and build reports on their impact. We both work with many Fortune 500s use the software, startups use the software, PR agencies, large and small, use it. We also have a whole feature set for journalists to get a free portfolio that automatically updates with their latest work. It's become very popular with journalists, as I'm sure you can appreciate, as someone who started down that world. I remember when we first met. And also the 𝗺cie Awards is the largest award show honoring the best of social media, entering its 12th annual.
Fantastic. And remind me, when was 𝒆𝒃 founded?
In 2009, actually had the idea for 𝒆𝒃 after seeing how many journalists covered and attended the 𝗺cie Awards, and thought there really needed to be a site where you could find all these journalists in one place.
Oh, fantastic. Well, congratulations on all the success that you have had in building those. It's they're just foundational brands in the social media space, and I know so many people love them a lot. So to many more years of success in that.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, well, I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Greg, let's talk about the present moment here. You, as the founder of 𝒆𝒃, are so connected to so many people on both sides of the media and communications market. You've been doing a really good job of keeping track of what people are doing in the face of this pandemic that we're all dealing with right now. I'm curious what stands out to you, what your companies are doing in terms of keeping the lights on and how to relate to this ground-shaking event.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really wild time. And, of course, first, it's hard to say anything about without just acknowledging the human toll. And that's something we really, focus on and have been very proactive about with checking in with our own employees. And we've had people who were, affected directly and have family members and all that. So really trying to, stay in touch there. There are a lot of trends kind of going on in the work world. We were, as a company, fortunate in that we had embraced remote work for a long time, similar to yourself, where half our teams distributed all over the world. They work from home wherever they want. And then the other half the team is here in New York, and we have a great office down in Soho that, of course, no one's been to in quite a while. But even before this, we let people work from home whenever they want. And we had a work from home policy. There was true work from home, like a lot of companies used to be kind of like, oh, you can work from home on a Friday if you get your manager's approval with 2 weeks notice. And of course, no one ever did. For us, it was you could wake up that morning and decide if you're coming in or not. So as a result, we always had, all of our meetings had video links. You never knew who on the team was remote or who'd be in the office on a given day. So for us, as a transition to the requirements that are now out there, and of course we're based in New York City, where it's just very hard hit and where the requirements are very stringent. Operationally, it was an easy switch for us, which I think at least reduced one lever of stress for everybody on the team, and that you don't have to worry about like, how am I going to get on my meeting in addition to all the other headaches you're going to have going through all this. And luckily, as we're a bootstrap company, so we've always had to operate profitably, cash flow positive in a responsible way. So that left us in a really good position, as opposed to if we were the kind of company that was counting on raising another round of financing in 6 months and then all of a sudden having to scramble to adjust. So I'm thankful we were able to at least like eliminate that one vector of kind of stress for our team. But of course, it's really hard. We have a lot of people who have to take care of their families now, or, New York City, a lot of people in small apartments where you don't have a lot of space to spread out. So there are challenges that come with it. And then finally, our customers are PR people, and they are all on the front lines of this, because every single company has a huge communications challenge, both externally to their customers and to the market, and maybe even messaging to the government nowadays, and also internally to just communicate with their own team, especially if they have a team that's never worked remotely before. So our customers are feeling a lot of stress. We're just doing everything we can to be there for them and support them.
That's great. What have you seen people in the media do to adapt? How is that going?
Yeah, that's been fascinating to watch. I mean, on one hand, unfortunately, of course, the media has been hard hit by this and is already struggling, and it's kind of pushed some organizations over the breaking point. So it's a tough thing to watch, journalists getting laid off and all that. We've also seen more and more usage of our free portfolio tool, since journalists want to have a place to store all their work and be able to get new work. So we're happy and doing everything we can to support journalists. In terms of the ones that are covering all this, it's wild to watch just pretty much all resources get connected to COVID coverage. And we've talked to a lot of journalists and done several panels with journalists, and the message from most of them is like, if it's not about COVID or doesn't connect to what's going on, like, don't bother pitching me about it, or don't talk to me about it. So it's,
at first when I heard that maybe 3-4 weeks ago, I had a hard time understanding it. And I thought, oh, that seems overstated, or how unreasonable. But now that we're right in the thick of it, I can totally understand. And yeah, it's all hands on deck. And if you've got something to say, hopefully it can help deal with this giant, frightening challenge. And if it's not relevant, then it's not relevant.
Yeah, well said. And I think journalists are also getting used to the remote work, because one of the thrilling things about being a journalist is being in the newsroom. It's it's a lively, energetic place. It's good to be around colleagues. Writing under deadline has always been kind of an adrenaline type activity. So, while there were some news outlets that were built a bit more remote first, a lot of them were still very newsroom driven. And even though, at least here in New York City, the news is deemed essential work, just about all the news organizations I talk to are having everyone who, have as many people stay home as possible, except for, people who are absolutely essential. Like I talked to one TV network where they're not set up for the video editing to be done elsewhere. So people still have to go in, for whatever kind of machine controls the broadcast switch. But outside of that, everyone's remote. So it's interesting too to think if you work in kind of the media ecosystem that journalists are people too, and they're having to adapt their workflow and their work styles to being all remote.
And they're essential workers, an essential industry. That's great to hear. I hadn't thought about it that way, but they are. Gosh darn it.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't, I mean, really, this has been all about the news, right? Like that's really what's driven a lot of the decisions to, move to the quarantine and a lot of these public safety measures. There's also so much kind of unverified or rumors about like what's the best science. So without having a trusted media brand, you don't, it's hard to assess it all. And the irony is that actually web traffic to the most trusted media brands is way up. So they're getting more traffic than ever. The only challenge is that advertising's down. So it's this kind of unfortunate thing where they're what they would usually strive for to just get more visitors is happening. And that's a great success. And, for an individual journalist, they get into this business to make an impact, and they're making a bigger impact than ever before. So I think for the journalists, by their own measure of success, this is the calling. This is what they signed up for. But on the flip side, you of course need to make the business work, and it's like at the very time you finally get the traffic, now a lot of the ads are pulling away. So I'm hopeful that there are solutions come out to that, and it's been encouraging already. Whereas at the beginning, a lot of advertisers were trying to avoid putting their ads on COVID content. There have been calls, and I haven't checked in yet. This was just all very recent, but I'm hoping that the advertisers realize that, you have to advertise where the viewers go, and that it's actually will be viewed as a good thing ultimately if you're supporting journalism at this time versus worrying about, old school brand safety guidelines.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and I think we'll see more and more brands step up and talk about what they're doing with regard to the pandemic. I know I was real happy to see a telecom company's ad last night about their dedication to supporting frontline health workers. That was an AT&T ad, and it was beautiful, and
Wow.
there really is a place for that.
Well said. Yeah, I mean, I think there's almost this feeling like if your ad doesn't acknowledge what's going on in the world, like I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I think that is that's the case for people throughout the conversation. So you recently brought to market a new capability for quantifying and measuring and discovering those conversations. Will you tell us a little bit about the new Muckrack Trends technology?
Sure. So, we basically saw this kind of need in the market that if you just want to quickly know, like, how much news coverage is something getting, can you find that in one place? And there's really nothing like that on the web. The closest thing is Google Trends, which is awesome, but Google Trends has nothing to do with news coverage. It has to do with how many times the term is Googled. So everyone could be Googling a certain term and nobody could be writing about it, or vice versa. So, we thought that there was this need out there. We first launched it with our customers and then to journalists for free. And we got great feedback from those communities. So a couple of weeks ago, we decided to just make it a free tool on the web for anybody, no registration involved, just muckrack.com/trends. And you can just run a trend, type in any term. A fascinating one right now is to see coronavirus or COVID-19, which we have featured there. And you can see just an unprecedented rise up in the number of articles per month. You can compare terms. Like I saw a journalist today did a Google trend showing that comparing Quibi, the new social video app launched by 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒌𝒔 and 𝗵𝒆𝒏𝒂𝒏, comparing Quibi to bread recipes and showing that more people are Googling for bread recipes than they were for Quibi. But I looked up in Muckrack Trends, and there are actually more articles written about Quibi than bread recipes. and they're both right. It's not like one's right and one's wrong, but it's like more people are Googling bread recipes than this new video service. But now you also know, so you can tell the story through data, that like this new service is getting a lot more press, and that they are making this big impact in the media. And a lot of people might not Google for it because they search for it at the Apple App Store to download it, or they just type in quibi.com, or they click the link from the article. So there are all these things happening on the web that Google search doesn't see. And we're excited just to throw it out there. And then you can even copy the permalinks, so you could run one of these trends comparisons and just throw it in your Slack or throw it on Twitter, and people could modify it or choose to compare it to a different term and have a lot of fun kind of playing with the data. So, we felt like it was something that was really needed, and especially right now, we're happy to offer it for free because, we know there are a lot of people out there where they're now freelancers. They just don't have the resources they might have a few weeks ago. So this way, it's just a free tool anyone can get to in seconds.
Mm-hmm. So are journalists likely to write about things that a lot of articles are already being written about, or to look for white space where there are not so many articles being written about something? Or how do you expect people to relate to that?
Yeah, we see it flowing both ways. So, I could see one use case would be like knowing, like let's say you're writing about, you're writing about something you think's a trend. You probably want to back it up to say if it's a trend or not. So you could use this to accomplish that. Also, a lot of times journalists, I'm sure you remember from your days, you want the scoop. So maybe a company tells you, hey, we've never been covered before. Can you write about my company? You can plug it into Muckrack Trends and be like, wait a minute, you got 3 articles 6 months ago. So you're really doing a relaunch here. What's happening? And then Pointer actually in their coverage brought up a use case I never thought of, which was that a lot of media critics are like, hey, the media never writes about this topic, but let me tell you. And his point was now journalists can actually go to those media critics and, assuming they really do cover the topic, show through Muckrack Trends like, yeah, you say we never cover this, but actually, look, there's 500 stories written about this every month for the past 12 months. We've been covering it. This isn't a valid line of critique. Mm-hmm. So I think there are a lot of ways that journalists can kind of slice this and use it to get story ideas or have data to back up their coverage.
That's fantastic.
I like your co-host, by the way.
Yes, my co-host has arrived late and wondering why I'm drinking my coffee black. Where is the saucer of milk? So speaking of entertainment, Greg, I want to conclude here by asking you to perhaps tell us. Let's switch from Muckrack over to the Shorty Awards just for a couple of minutes. What are you seeing out there that's catching your interest that perhaps other people may not be seeing, or that lots of people are seeing that we should know about in terms of social media content right now?
Yeah, in a way, you're way ahead of the curve, Marshall, because you were doing this show. We planned this show before COVID, but this is the new means of production, right? Like we weren't planning on getting together in person because we're in different cities. But even if we wanted to, even if we lived a block from each other, this is how we'd have to create. And to me, that's the big new trend where, you look at SNL last Saturday, they did the opening, set a live from New York, live from Zoom. It was really pre-recorded, and the whole cast got on Zoom from their own homes, and then Tom Hanks hosted it from his home. So, you see, like, in a way, that this kind of form of production that you and I have been doing for years because we're cheap and we lack the resources of a huge studio and being able to fly in guests on private jets and all the stuff that we would do if we had multi-million-dollar production budgets. The playing field's even there. And actually, the Shorty Awards, we're going to do it the same way because it was scheduled for May 3rd. We were going to bring it back to the PlayStation Theater in Times Square. It's usually an 800-person live event that then gets live streamed to over 100,000. Instead, we're going to produce it like this. We're going to be live. We're going to cut in winners from all over from their living rooms and make the entertainment this way, the musical act this way. So, it's a whole new world. And on one hand, while at the same time, I feel for everyone who is economically impacted by this, and I hope we get back to normal as soon as possible. I think at the same time, it's a, there is an element, as we saw from SNL, as we saw Hamilton did a really funny video on their Instagram, instead of the room where it happens, the Zoom where it happens. John Krasinski is doing this great good news daily YouTube show, only showing good news from that day. So I think we are seeing a lot of creativity, and it's going to be an accelerant to this trend we've seen from people like yourself and YouTube influencers, that you can make really compelling content with not a lot of money. And I think that can be empowering to the people who used to be disenfranchised and didn't have the budget, because now it's all a level playing field.
Agreed. Well said. I'm certainly seeing throughout the industries that we work with a different set of challenges for digital natives versus more legacy companies, and it appears that this big disruption is going to foster an acceleration of all kinds of trends that a lot of us had foreseen and hoped for, but that had been slow to come around. That said, of course, it's a somber situation for sure. But a part of building a more resilient society and economy, I think, will be transforming through processes like this. So, Greg, I really appreciate your taking the time to talk about your work and what you're seeing out in the market here today with our community. It's great to be able to maintain our friendship and dialogue here, even at a distance. And I'm real happy for you and your team that you've been able to stay safe and healthy and build all the momentum that you have been. But Greg, what is the best way for people to keep track of your work and connect with you on an ongoing basis?
Yeah, it's really easy. I'm just at Gregory. I signed up early, so it's my first name, Gregory, on both Twitter and Instagram. So you can hit me up on either of those. On LinkedIn, I think it's such a cool name. I think I'm LinkedIn/in/G Galant, but you can find me there. And of course, Muckrack, just muckrack.com, and Shorty Awards, shortyawards.com. Anyone can tune in to watch the show live for free on May 3rd at shortyawards.com, and we'll also stream it on Twitter and YouTube. So a lot of ways to connect, and don't hesitate to reach out if you want to chat. And Marshall, thanks for having me on. We're gonna have to, if this doesn't end soon, I'll buy we'll both have to buy some Texas beer and then do another one of these off the record and recreate the experience of being at South by virtually. But thank you for having me on. This was a lot of fun.
Right on. Yeah, sure was. Thank you, Greg. All right. Well, you take care, and let's keep in touch. Folks, thanks so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next time. Stay safe and healthy out there, everybody.